What do you do to get yourself in the right space before you go out there and do a show?
Well, I'm getting older, so it's a lot of, I think it would be the same thing that you would imagine a retired footballer would do if you said you have to play this afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of creaking and stretching and asking people to manipulate this and loosen that. And, it's that kind of thing.
I've gotten into trouble asking people that.
Yeah. Please, could you manipulate this and loosen
Please
that?
manipulate me. Why am I being sued?
As the venues become the same as sports, so the preparations do too.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
When we were playing in bars, I don't drink, but the rest of the band were drinking. When we were playing in arenas, the rest of them were doing, arena type stuff. And when you're playing stadiums, it's like preparing for a big soccer game or a big NFL game, and you're going to get some muscle issues. And
yeah. Oh, I also think, even though I have had people make fun of me because I'll be about to do a show where I'm sitting and chatting with someone and I'm stretching. And people say, what are you stretching for? You're not going to in any way do anything slightly athletic. And I say, it's something about preparing. I need to do something for myself that gets me to a slightly elevated
I think
place.
That comes from physical stuff and from uniforms. I think that we see it all around the world. Anyone that's given a uniform to enforce a rule can do it very, very firmly when they have their uniform. But if they were wearing shorts and a t-shirt, you wouldn't take them seriously.
Right.
In the same way that I could not go on stage dressed like this, I would not be able to do it. I have to put on my uniform, which looks pretty similar, but I know it's my band uniform.
Yeah, that makes sense to me though too, because I've always felt it's a performance has to be you get to a slightly different place than we're sitting here, I'm wearing jeans, you're wearing sweats, we're chatting. If there was an audience here, I sometimes, even if I'll put on a tie, even if it's not required, I just feel that I need to do something that shows that I'm an ice cream man and I put on my ice cream man uniform.
Yeah. Well, this is a cool, I don't know if this is interesting, but it's been on my mind because I got told that I got in trouble for not dressing up enough for the Grammys. Mm-hmm. Although my partner said, you did dress up, you put shoes on. which was true and being really kind.
Uh-huh.
But I was thinking about, I am happy to feel like I have to wear an outfit if it helps me perform better, but I don't agree with telling people what they have to wear.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a hangover from school where you're told you have to wear this, or I need to write a treatise on this, like the sort of clothing rules.
Yeah. Well, it seems like it's
on my mind, but it's
on your mind because, well, first of all, it's the Grammys and it's representing all different kinds of music and free expression. So the idea that you need to dress up for the Grammys,
but there's also a thing of, does clothing show respect? And I would never want to show disrespect. So because I love the Grammys, so I was interested. Maybe I was wrong, or maybe we're sort of brainwashed to thinking if you're not wearing a tuxedo, you can't get married, kind of thing.
Right.
Well,
right.
Of course you can if you're hot. What if you're an axe murderer and you're dressed correctly? Are you a better groom than Woody Harrelson over here, who loves you with all his heart but is wearing board shorts?
Right.
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 No, you're not. But then
I didn't know the answer, and I think Woody is very violent, in my experience.
Well, I'm going to give big shout out to Woody Harrelson because he was at a concert of ours one day. He was so kind to my brother when he had no reason to be, that he just became an extra hero in my eyes.
Well, that's nice when obviously people are nice to you, but it's so delightful when you find out who someone really is, when you find out later on that they talked for 20 minutes to the person who was installing cable. I don't know. I love that. When people reveal their true kindness through just...
well, he did another thing too.
It wasn't performative,
Something I learned from my dad is that everybody is interesting if you ask them questions. Everybody. And my dad is amazing at that. And he comes out on tour a lot. And he doesn't necessarily know who people are from movies. So he talks to our crew a lot, and a lot of them have names like Bash or Hoppy, Mystic, things like that. And then he met this guy called Woody. And he started talking about, what do you do? Do you fold the cables? And it was Woody Harrelson. and hello, Woody, like this.
And then he told you, I met this lovely fellow named Woody.
Yeah. And again, Woody Harrelson was cool as fuck. And
well, I was many years ago had a party and Jim Carrey was there and my mother was there. And at one point, I see my mother talking to Jim Carrey and I'm thinking, oh God, what's happening? And then she came over to me and she went, I just talked to the loveliest young man. His name's Jim. And I said, oh, you talked to Jim? And she was like, yes. And I told him, if you want to be in comedy, you stick with it. And they're going to try and put you down, but you keep, of course, he had like 9, he was the biggest star in the world at the time. And I said, Mom, all I want you to do is go back to Boston and tell your friends you told Jim Carrey to stick with comedy.
That's great.
And she did and got laughed out of town.
That's amazing. I was visiting my friend who had cancer at the time in New York in hospital. And I was coming down in the elevator with a nurse in all her glory, like 6 pens in the pocket, like, And I was singing it, not loudly, not like, hey, check this out.
Yeah.
But I was mumbling or something. And she said, oh, you have a beautiful voice. And I said, oh, thank you so much. She said, you should do something with that. and I said, oh, yeah, well, maybe. And she said, also, you look like the guy from Coldplay. This is really true. And I said, okay, yeah, people say that. And she said, you know what you should do? You should call restaurants and say that you're him because you would get really good tables. And then she left.